Gather around, gather around. I have seen Heretic and I'm ready to talk about it, or Heretic, as I say in my head. So Heretic is about two young Mormon women. They're drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man while they're out spreading the gospel. It stars Hugh Grant as Mr. Reed, Sophie Thatcher as Sister Barnes, and Chloe East as Sister Paxton. Heretic is a psychological thriller that didn't do enough for me. I actually walked away from this movie with a greater appreciation for both Immaculate, which stars Sydney Sweeney, and Never Let Go, which stars Halle Berry. I appreciate the fact that both of those movies did something with their religious premise. I feel like Heretic, it falls into the lineup of movies who uses religion as the basis, the jumping point, the subject of why these characters end up in these horrific situations, these thrilling, suspenseful situations, but it abandons it halfway through the movie in favor of science, I think. It has a good setup. The best scene of the movie is actually in the trailer. It's not the whole scene, but you see part of it in the trailer. It's the living room scene where they're talking to Mr. Reed. That scene is great. I'm ready. It's great. The acting is incredible. All three characters have chemistry with each other. And then the other great scene is a continuation of that scene, still setting it up. It's right before things like get going, right? It's right where the roller coaster, you're teetering up to the edge and it's about to, but then it never really like falls for me. Like we never really get into it because it promises a test of faith. Don't really see that. It promises like trials and tribulations. Don't really see that either. I think the character of Mr. Reed is a good villain. I kind of feel like he doesn't quite fit in this movie just because of what the subject matter was supposed to be. I like Mr. Reed, but my problems with this movie actually stem from his characterization. So let's talk about it. Spoilers and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So continuing on the thread of characterization, we first have Sister Barnes. Sister Barnes is a convert. She is from Philly. She's dressed in all black. I get the sense from Sister Barnes that at a certain point in her life, she may have made the same arguments against the validity of religion that Mr. Reed was making. She's been through things, she's experienced loss. She looks to me like she's had to put aside some sensibilities, and sensibilities is just the best word I can think of, but some sensibilities in order to commit to the faith. And she is fully committed. But it seems to me that it may have been a journey for her, and maybe it also like saved her from grief. I don't remember the timeline of events, but maybe it also saved her, like helped her process her grief after she lost her father. Then we have Sister Paxton, who was raised in the faith, sweet, innocent, looks and speaks like she's never been through nothing, down to the frilly socks. I really enjoyed the way that Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, the way they played Barnes and Paxton's interactions with Mr. Reed, the growing sense that something's wrong. You could see Barnes's Philly senses tingling, telling her that this man ain't shit. He ain't on the up and up, but she's a good Mormon girl now, and you can't just wild out on a man just because he's acting weird. I enjoyed the way that they played the suspicion, but also like full politeness. And I think that's their religious training, right? Like both not wanting to accuse the man of something he hasn't done or hasn't been obvious about. But I also don't think we should ignore what I think, which is that this is also part of their religious training to not buck up against not just an elder, but an elder man. So then we have Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed studied religion, but he is not religious. And that's where this movie falls apart for me, because it ends up telling us that according to Mr. Reed, the true religion is control. That's why, like, Immaculate committed. Everybody was in on the religious thing. Never Let Go. Everybody believed. He didn't believe. He's he's not a former convert. He's not someone who has church hurt. I don't know if he's ever been religious in his whole life. He's not someone who had a religious like out of body experience and is now trying to prove it true. He's not delusional in the religious sense. He's delusional in the scientific sense. I enjoyed his rant about religions, about iterations. It actually reminded him talking about the similarities and like the big religions being iterative of not just each other, but some older religions. I enjoyed that because it reminded me of a world religion class that I took way back in college. Not way back, but back in college that I enjoyed because I learned a lot. Like how much so many of these religions have in common and other religions that I had not heard of, like Zoroastrianism. I'm sure I messed that up. But so I enjoyed that part because it was a callback to my education. And he has some zingers, like how, after the earthquake in Haiti, like the missionaries would go hand Haitians Bibles because it's easier to control people who are desperate than to actually like empower people who are desperate. Like it's more advantageous. But other than that, those little zingers, what his experiment doesn't make any sense to me. So he wanted to test their faith. So he puts them in a room with a faux prophet, kills her, and then replaces her with someone who's actually alive. And the person is supposed to whisper some words off a script. And then what was that supposed to get the girls to do? The movie's missing so much. Like, they did not do a good job of giving Mr. Reed background in terms of what he's doing. Has he had successes before? Is this his first experiment? Where did he get these women from? Is there a case of missing women in the town? We heard nothing about that. What was he looking for? It's about control. Okay, so this prophet says one word, it's not real, and this throws off the whole thing. So he starts trying to cover it up and improvising, and his improvisation is that Barnes is a simulated character. It became silly and nonsensical. Heretic is weak because of what I said, but also because at the end they reveal that Mr. Reed believes that the true religion is control. Okay, but I didn't see him control them. I saw him trap them in a room, but he never broke them mentally. He didn't break them, make them do things they never thought they'd do. He didn't take them to the brink of sanity. He doesn't bring them to the brink of decency. He doesn't tear apart their morale. He does nothing controlling in the setting that he creates. And finally, Sister Barnes waking up miraculously to perform a miracle for Sister Paxton, I only accept that if that was part of Paxton's delusion, because Paxton is totally dead. At the end, she said she would come back as a butterfly and land on people's fingers so that they would know it's her. So she landed on her own finger so that we know it's her. She is so dead. And I only accept Paxton getting up if at that point her brain was losing oxygen and was shutting down, because Mr. Reed did, in fact, which was so ruthless to come after her, when she's already dying, just because she started praying. I also didn't like that part of the movie where, like, she's like, oh, prayers are not real. I don't buy that coming from Sister Paxton. I don't think Sister Paxton would be reading or be interested in a study that says prayers don't help people who are sick. She is totally a believer, even though she watches porn sometimes. So those are my thoughts about Heretic. I give it a 3 only because the acting is that strong.